Okay, hello. So for our iNaturalist presentation, we had pollinators for our topic, but we looked at pollinators that were in the desert section of the Fullerton Arboretum. So the pollinator that we saw the most were honeybees, and we saw these guys all over. We didn't just see them only in the desert section, but what we did notice from what we saw where they were was that these bees usually gravitated towards yellow colored flowers compared to other colors such as purple, white, or pink. And we don't know the scientific reasoning for this, but that's just what we observed. And we do have plenty of pictures on this slide and the next that do show them on yellow colored flowers. And some fun facts about bees are that female honeybees are the ones that go out and collect pollen and nectar to feed the hive. And also for honeybees, once they sting, they die after. So they're not able to sting more than once. And these are just more pictures of bees that we found. The next pollinator that we saw was the wandering skipper. However, we aren't 100% sure if it was like the wandering skipper, but we do know it was a skipper. The reason we thought that it was a wandering skipper is because if you can see on the picture to the right, on the wings, it has like a cream color that outlines the wings. And this is a defining characteristic of the wandering skipper. And these are also found commonly along coastal habitats. And although Fullerton isn't along the coast, it is like relatively close to the coast. So we just figured that this would be a wandering skipper. And then we also saw the carpenter bee. These ones are bigger than honeybees. And I always used to think that carpenter bees were bumblebees, but they are indeed their own species. And they are actually the largest native bees in the United States. And they get their name carpenter because they tunnel into wood, such as like trees, park benches, or even wooden fences. And something that's different about carpenter bees and honeybees is that for carpenter bees, they can sting more than once and they will not die. However, these bees are usually harmless and they don't sting unless they are provoked. And I wanted to also include a pollinator from our species list. And something that we could have seen if we had gone on the trip could have been monarch butterflies or pipevine swallowtails. For the monarch butterfly, these butterflies are actually poisonous because when they're caterpillars, they eat milkweed, which contains chemicals that make them poisonous. And this is why when they become butterflies, they have the warning colorations of orange and black. And these butterflies are also the most widely studied butterflies for scientific research. As for pipevine swallowtails, they live on the leaves of the plant pipevine, which is why they're called pipevine swallowtails. And pipevines are commonly found in warmer climates, which is why these butterflies are found in desert habitats. And just like the monarch butterfly, these butterflies are also poisonous because they have the warning colorations. Okay, thank you. That's it for my part. And then Pearl's gonna take over the next part.
So this next species we saw was the sulfur butterfly. We didn't take these photos and we couldn't get a good photo of these butterflies. They fly very low to the ground and they fly in long distances from one plant species very far away to the next one, and they have very erratic flying patterns. So it was very hard to even attempt to get a feasible picture of these butterflies. So the ones we saw about two or three of them, and they all look the same. They look like the one on the right, which is a male. So the male sulfur butterflies have plain yellow wings, whereas the females, see the image on the left, have a slight black border on their wings with the black spot. What's fun about sulfur butterflies is that in the caterpillar stage, they can eat a leaf and they'll turn green like the leaf. But if they have yellow flowers afterwards, they'll turn yellow again to match the flowers. And in the caterpillar stage, they are poisonous. So if a gardener finds them on their plants, they're going to have to throw the entire plant away. So they're considered a bit of a nuisance because they camouflage and they're so difficult to find. So the next species we saw was Anna's hummingbird. Maheen took the picture on the far left. So to see a close-up of Anna's hummingbird, we provided some more images, and the female Anna's hummingbird is in the center. So the female has a green back with a grayish belly. They're not very bright, but the male, on the other hand, is a huge difference. They are still green, but on their face, forehead, neck area, they have an iridescent red patch. In some lighting, it can look hot pink, like this picture, but it's more of a ruby red when you see it in person. Anna's hummingbirds have a very tiny nest, about an inch to an inch and a half big, very small. And they can decorate their nest with bits of lichen and moss, and they can even steal it from other nests for themselves. Their main predators are cats, believe it or not, and in the 1920s, 1930s era, they were very, very scarce. They were only found in California and Baja California, but with some good conservation efforts, now they're all over the country today, and they even extend all the way up until Canada. The next species we found was the pollen beetle. Just for your information, the white flower was found in the desert section of the arboretum, but the purple flowers were not. They were closer to the entrance. We included it anyway just because they both had the same beetle. There hasn't been much research done on pollen beetles, so we cannot say for sure if they are a true pollinator or not, or if they even have a significance on pollination at all. But what we do know is that females lay their eggs inside of a flower bud. So once the larvae grow, they can damage the flower bud and the flower from the inside. So by the time the flower blooms, the flower is going to drop or it's going to wilt. So it's not good for the flower. And both the adults and the larvae survive off of the pollen and the nectar from flowers. Now for these next species, we didn't see them on the arboretum, but we included them just to have a little supplemental information. So these are some of the Great Basin desert pollinators, and these are on the species list. So to the left, we have the sagebrush sheep moth, and they're very fast flyers, and they also fly very high as well. So they are very notoriously hard to catch. And the nettle sheep moth is to the right, and as caterpillars, they have big yellow spikes, and they can sting to the touch. So they're not the safest species in the world. So these were the desert pollinators, and thank you for listening.